Childhood sexual abuse has long-lasting impacts on the human mind and body. It can result in a lifetime of mental and physical issues, and it's important to understand how it can lead to a host of interconnected problems. But first, let's take a look at what childhood sexual abuse is.
Childhood sexual abuse is all forms of sexual touching involving a child. It is the misuse of power for sexual stimulation or gratification by an adult, peer, older adolescent, or anyone in a position of power. Children are not physically or mentally developmentally prepared for any form of sexual activity, and therefore consent is never present.
Childhood sexual abuse includes, but is not limited to, fondling, sexual touching of any body part, penetrative sex, encouraging a child to engage in sexual activity including masturbation, making a child touch adult sexual organs, indecent exposure, intentionally masturbating in front of a child, intentionally engaging in sexual activity in front of a child, showing children pornography, using children for pornography, encouraging children to engage in prostitution. So how might childhood sexual abuse impact you as an adult? Let's start with the mind. Problems can include memory problems, disassociation, feeling outside of your body, losing time, not feeling real, or the extreme case of dissociative identity disorder, headaches and migraines, post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, panic attacks, eating disorders such as anorexia, obesity and bulimia, addiction or substance misuse, and sleep problems. Within the mind, we have identity and sense of self. For survivors, these can be compromised by feelings of shame, guilt, self-blame, feeling not normal, self-esteem, and body image. Our mind and bodies are strongly connected. Problems in the mind can manifest physically in the body. In the chest, potential impacts include anxiety, heart palpitations, panic attack, heart disease. Survivors can experience problems in the abdominal region, such as gastrointestinal problems, irritable bowel syndrome, symptoms of anxiety and panic attacks. Sexuality is a part of us that comes from both mind and body. Some impacts among survivors include questioning sexual orientation, be vulnerable to sexual exploitation, avoiding, fearing, or lacking interest in sex, approaching sex as an obligation, experiencing negative feelings such as anger, disgust, or guilt with touch or seeking sex to meet other emotional needs, feeling emotionally distant or not present during sex, having difficulty becoming aroused or feeling sensation, experiencing intrusive or disturbing sexual thoughts and images, engaging in compulsive or inappropriate sexual behaviors, experiencing difficulty establishing or maintaining an intimate relationship, experiencing vaginal pain, erectile dysfunction, or orgasmic difficulties for both men and women. In the rest of the physical body, survivors can be disconnected from bodily sensations, feel bad about your body, self-harm, inflicting pain or injury on yourself. Research has found that survivors of child sexual abuse are sick more often, have surgery more often, increased risk of having chronic pain syndromes, early onset of physical conditions.
These are the common symptoms experienced by survivors of childhood sexual abuse. Each survivor's responses and experiences will not be the same. These are our body's automatic primal responses to trauma and could potentially be experienced into adulthood.
The automatic survival responses include fight. When threatened, we respond with overt aggression. Flight. This involves any means of putting distance between the individual and the threat. The most obvious is running away. Freeze. There is a protective numbing of the body and mind in the event of inevitable harm. The freeze response is exceptionally common in child sexual abuse because the abuser's authority, aggression, superior size, and strength, and the child is literally frozen and paralyzed. Unfortunately, many abusers take this response to mean consent, and many survivors feel terrible shame for not having fought back or tried to escape. However, they had no choice in the matter, as this was literally an automatic body response. Submit. This is a state of total submission, when all the muscles go floppy and both the body and the mind become malleable. Higher thinking processes in the brain are shut off at this point, and so this is a zombie-like submission where people do what they are told to do and do not protest at all. Again, similar to freeze response, abusers take this as consent and survivors feel ample shame and guilt. Faint. Body collapses. Past experience has a huge bearing on the automatic responses of survivors. As adults, we are likely to go straight into the freeze or submit response when faced with fairly minor current day threats, or even just perceptions of threats, because fight and flight were ineffective in the past. All these survival responses activate symptoms in the present, whether the threat is real or perceived. This all happens before we have the time to consciously think and plan. This is how trauma continues to live in our body once the traumatic experience itself has passed.
Trauma impacts everyone differently. Similar to all experiences of adversity, there are multiple elements in a child's life that can serve as protective or risk factors. Research has identified stability and familial, peer, and social supports as protective factors in a child's short and long-term responses to sexual abuse. Bodily senses of love and safety have shown to provide the resiliency and resources for healing. A.N.B.U is protective. So let's let love be the foundation we build on.